Salt Lake City is an up-and-coming arts and culture destination. And to add to it, a new public art project is being installed right here on McCarthy Plaza and is set to open in mid-October. Kat Nix with the Salt Lake City Arts Council has details on this week's episode of Capital City News. And our History Minute is about horror legend Vincent Price. Let's get started with our legislative update and look back.
At its September 24th meeting, the City Council, acting as the redevelopment agency, approved a $3.3 million loan for a new housing development at about 4th West and 3rd South. They received an update on proposals for the Utah Theater property and approved the final step toward dispersing $6.1 million for affordable housing projects in the city. As the City Council, they approved agreements that determined how the tax increment from the Block 67 North project area would be split between the Council and the RDA. To learn more, visit slc.gov/council.
The 2019 municipal general election is on November 5th. Candidates for this year's local election are running to fill the Salt Lake City mayoral seat and the Salt Lake City Council Districts 2, 4, and 6 seats. To learn more about the candidates, register to vote, and find your nearest voting centers, visit slc.gov/elections. It's your city, your vote.
One day and one person can make a real and lasting difference. To learn more, visit www.phcslc.org.
Salt Lake City's public art scene is thriving, and to add to it, a new public art project is making its way to Regent Street called Pages of Salt, just north of the Eccles Theater. Kat Nix with the Salt Lake City Arts Council shares details about the artists and the artwork coming to Salt Lake City.
Public art's purpose and being situated in the Department of Economic Development is we recognize the aesthetic and economic benefit of adding site-specific high-quality public art to all of our public spaces, whether that's our skate parks, our public buildings. But we support artists in all stages of their career, from emerging to established, and providing those opportunities to create public art, which has so many incredible benefits, from developing a shared identity to interpreting a site's history, to really allowing us to connect and have thoughtful conversations and dialogue about our urban environment and how we interact with them. Currently, we are on McCarthy Plaza, which is located next to Regent Street, which is situated between State Street and Main Street and 1st South and 2nd South. It is also going to be home to Salt Lake City's newest public art project, the Regent Street Public Art Project, Pages of Salt by artist Ned Kahn, who is a California-based artist. When Ned Kahn started researching the project, he became really fascinated with the connection and history of Regent Street to the printing presses. In the 1920s, the Salt Lake Tribune and Deseret News were located on Regent Street and for over 80 years produced Salt Lake's daily newspapers. It reminded Ned the images, these beautiful, ingenious machines of holding out an arm and having hundreds of draped newspapers over the arm reminded him of a lot of his wind sculptures that he uses with the forces of nature to set in motion, so kind of the swaying quality about his work and also the printing presses. And then he was also incredibly inspired by the Great Salt Lake and the outlines and traces of salt when the lake is changing and evaporating slowly. He also became really just amazed by the quality of the salt crystals along the salt flats, and so the Teflon fabric is really meant to have this optical quality of shining and glistening and reflecting the surroundings that are happening on Regent Street. And also Ned's work with the scale and making the wind passages visible is really focused on this awe and appreciation for our natural patterns, and has also compared Pages of Salt because of the scale and the quality and the sound and the motion of swaying to the meditative properties of maybe a waterfall and running water. And so every time you come back to Ned's work, you're able to learn something new or connect with it in some different way. Artists are incredible storytellers, and what Ned has done with Pages of Salt is interpret the site's history, told us about our community and where we've come from, but he's also provided this opportunity to come to this work over and over again to create awe and appreciation for our wind patterns and our air quality, and to really create an interesting dialogue of how we can become better stewards of our environment, but also to just appreciate and have this meditative quality and moment of reprieve to be present and to enjoy. And what Ned does really, he talks about how he's not interested in creating alternate mediums, but really what he's doing is to create an opportunity to see the awe and mystery around us, and Pages of Salt does just that. So we're incredibly excited for it to be complete and to share this with the community. This project was a little bit atypical and doesn't follow our traditional process of going through the CIP process, which is the Capital Improvement Program, using city funds on city property. This process varied a little bit as they were RDA funds. The funding for this project comes from an RDA reconstruction from Regent Street. So it varied in a little bit that they brought in a Public Art National consultant to kind of inform our process for how we should run a project like this. It is Salt Lake City's largest investment in public art to date. And so an artist selection committee was formed between the site's stakeholders, arts professionals, a representative from the mayor's office and arts council, and then our art design board, which is the entity that's responsible for selecting artists. They're the mayor's appointed experts. And so the artist selection committee was formed. We distributed this RFQ, which is a request for qualifications. Lots of artists applied, and Ned Kahn ended up being the selected artist, who then enters into an agreement to develop a design proposal. And so he had done a site visit, presented to the art design board and the artist selection committee, and did his research to propose Pages of Salt, which was then approved and selected. And then we started the actual all the way from the fabrication process, so contracting to design development to the building permits. This project has worked with so many different city departments and so many different project partners, and is a great example of what public art can be when you have public entities, private entities, nonprofits, private owners all come together to make an incredible investment in public art, which is accessible to all, to really solidify Regent Street and McCarthy Plaza as a thriving arts and cultural destination for our community. So Ned has fabricated all of the pieces in his shop, but from the very beginning he's been working with Yesco, which is a local sign company that have installed so many different projects over the years. They're also a really long-standing company in Salt Lake City, and this has been a really new and fun project for them, installing artwork instead of signs. So Ned had fabricated all the materials in his shop, shipped them and created them to Yesco. And Yesco has been here for the last month, installing the poles and support structures for Ned's Teflon pages of salt. So it's been about 5 weeks of install. It'll be complete around October 10th, and then we're going to kick off and celebrate with the community and NedCon, who will be here on October 22nd at McCarthy Plaza. We'll have music and food trucks, and then we'll also have a great speaking program from mayor and other public officials. You can always find out more info on the Salt Lake City Arts Council page, saltlakearts.org, or our public art program page, saltlakepublicart.org.
Next up, just in time for Halloween, is our History Minute.
In the early years of Vincent Price's career, he was a handsome leading man and took on many roles that one might not associate with him. One of these roles, early in his career, brought him fame in Utah. He played Joseph Smith in the 1940 film Brigham Young. But this wouldn't be the last time Price's fame brought him notice in Utah. In 1952, he starred in a production of T.S. Eliot's The Cocktail Party that played at Kingsbury Hall. The Cocktail Party was one of Eliot's most popular plays, and cast Price as a man whose marriage dissolves on the eve of a cocktail party. Price would later find fame in horror films and appearances in everything from the 1960s Batman television show and a Scooby-Doo cartoon series, as well as Michael Jackson's Thriller.
This fall, Regent Street will be a hub of activity. Come on down and check out the public art. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Capital City News. I'm Poonam Kumar, signing off from Regent Street.